Hi everyone. Hopefully at this point you've gotten a chance to finish A Beautiful Mind. You may have known about this movie already. It was relatively popular. You may have watched it in another class. You may have even known about the movie or about John Nash a little bit. John Nash was someone who was a New Jerseyan. He passed away a few years ago, but up until his death, you can actually find him at Princeton campus. He was walking around. You could interact with him. Now, he was one of the most famous mathematicians and also an economist of his time. He actually won the Nobel Prize for economics. He was one of the founders of what we know as the game theory understanding of economics. I'm not going to go through that in too much detail. You can find it online. But our focus is going to be on how the story works and how it is structured. So I want to talk about something specific with this movie. And it is about how A Beautiful Mind is structured around a bait and switch. Now, what I mean by that is it suggests that the movie is about one thing, and then, so that's the bait, and then it switches it out and tells us that no, it's actually about something else. All right, so for a good portion of the movie, we as viewers work under the assumption that this is a story about a young man who is asked to perform a special task on behalf of the American government. We have Ed Harris's character who brings in John Nash, gives him, a particular task to do, and then we walk through that story, right? We have individual characters. We have John Nash's tasks. We have all this information that suggests that we should feel comfortable in thinking that this is what is happening. However, halfway or partway through the movie, we have the switch. So the movie tells us that it's actually not an almost spy narrative. It is not about a young man performing a task on behalf of the American government. In fact, the story is about a young schizophrenic mathematician who is having a harder and harder time figuring out what is real and what is fiction. So the movie gives us the bait and then switches it out for something else. Now, in some ways, this movie is very different than some of the movies that we've talked about as having an ambiguous ending. This movie, A Beautiful Mind, is not ambiguous. It doesn't really give us these two options we can't choose between. Instead, it gives us one option, right? It's a spy story about a man working on behalf of the American government. It gets rid of that and replaces it with the schizophrenic young mathematician. All right, so it doesn't leave us with an ambiguous two options. It gives us option one, option B, and then confidently chooses option B. All right. Now, if there is any sort of ambiguity in the movie, or at least this is my understanding, it has to do with what is happening with John Nash's mind at the end of the movie. It's still a little bit fuzzy to figure out what's real and what's fiction, but the movie does let us be pretty confident in knowing that the story is about a schizophrenic mathematician, and that's it. All right, so I'm really interested to see what you guys think about this movie and the different scenes and the dialogue and anything that stuck out to you. So I'll see everyone on the discussion boards.